How to increase the attraction of girls towards you. Listen to this. It was a quiet morning, the kind that made one think deeply about life, purpose, and relationships. The sun hadn't yet risen fully, but the sky had begun to glow in gentle shades of blue and orange. In a world brimming with distractions, there remained a single question echoing within a restless mind. What truly draws people towards others? Specifically, what draws women towards men, not in fleeting moments, but in ways that captivate deeply? The answers were never found in shortcuts or gimmicks, but in something more profound, transformation. And so began a journey, not of external tactics, but of internal change, starting with the decision to turn inward and understand what made some people magnetic, while others faded into the background. The first truth revealed itself slowly. Attraction begins with self-respect. It was easy to assume that confidence could be faked, that a man could walk into a room and pretend to be bold, sure, and impressive. But real confidence was quieter, deeper. It was born out of doing what one said they would do, showing up for themselves even when no one was watching. Each morning now began with a commitment. A run at dawn, a cold shower, a healthy breakfast. Not because anyone was watching, but because it aligned with the versions of self that was respected. When a man respects himself, it shows in how he walks, how he speaks, how he listens. And without needing to announce it, women sense that. As the days passed, one thing became clear. Physical appearance mattered, but not in the way society often screamed. It wasn't about chasing trends or obsessing over looks. It was about taking care of the body, not for vanity, but for vitality. The gym became a sanctuary, not to sculpt the perfect physique, but to reconnect with strength, discipline, and challenge. Sweat, pain, and perseverance molded more than just muscles. They shaped presence. When a man looked strong and healthy, it wasn't just about attractiveness. It signaled to women that he could take care of himself and possibly others. And in that silent signal lay a layer of attraction that words couldn't replicate. But beyond muscles and morning routines was the mind. Attraction deepened when a man carried a sense of purpose. Days were no longer about drifting through tasks. Each hour was driven by intention. Books replaced endless scrolling. Conversations became more thoughtful. Instead of complaining, there was curiosity. Instead of gossiping, there was gratitude. A man on a mission, even if small, had a glow. Whether building a skill, chasing a career, or creating art, purpose gave meaning to life. And that meaning made a man irresistibly magnetic. Women were drawn not to perfection, but to direction. They wanted to walk beside someone who was going somewhere meaningful. And slowly, interactions with women began to change, not because of pickup lines or flashy outfits, but because the energy was different. Conversations were approached not to impress, but to connect. Instead of asking, "How can I get her to like me?" the question became, "Who is she? What drives her? What does she value?" This curiosity created space for her to feel seen, not judged. And when a woman felt seen, truly seen, she opened up in ways that were rare and sincere. That vulnerability created chemistry, one that was built not on charm, but on authenticity. Listening, once underestimated, became the most powerful tool. Most men listened to reply. Few listened to understand. But when a man listened deeply, without interrupting, without needing to prove himself, women leaned in. They felt heard, valued, safe. And safety, paradoxically, was one of the most powerful triggers of attraction. Not the boring kind of safety that lacked excitement, but the grounded kind, where a woman could express herself without fear of being mocked or manipulated. That kind of space was rare, and it made her want to stay. Yet safety alone wasn't enough. There needed to be a spark, a sense of play, mystery, and challenge, but not the manipulative games many tried to play. Real mystery came from not revealing everything at once. A man who didn't need to overshare, who carried an air of depth. He made women wonder. Who was he beneath the surface? What dreams did he carry? What fears did he wrestle with? That sense of layered identity pulled them in, like a good novel whose pages one couldn't stop turning. And challenge wasn't about arrogance or dominance. It was about having standards. When a man had standards, he didn't chase just for validation. He chose with intention. He didn't flatter blindly. He gave honest compliments, but only when meant. He wasn't afraid to walk away from disrespect or disinterest. That self-respect created tension, not the toxic kind, but the attractive kind. Women respected men who didn't beg, who didn't over-explain, who knew their worth and stood by it. Time and again, it became clear that attraction wasn't a fixed trait. It was cultivated, day by day, through habits, values, and presence. Humor added spice, playful teasing, shared laughter, inside jokes. Intelligence added depth, not just academic, but emotional. A man who could reflect on his mistakes, apologize when needed, and learn from his past became more than just interesting. He became safe, inspiring, and rare. And then came style, not fashion, but expression. How a man dressed told a story about how he saw himself. Not everyone needed to be a model, but clean clothes, good grooming, and a little effort showed self-respect. Women noticed, not the price tag, but the pride. A man who carried himself with intention, even in simple clothes, stood out more than one drowning in brands. Simplicity with elegance was more potent than flashy confusion. It also became important to let go of desperation. Neediness killed attraction. When a man needed a woman to feel complete, it created pressure. But when he was already whole, when he enjoyed his life, friends, work, and passions, a woman didn't feel like she was saving him. She felt like she was joining him. That shift from need to want changed everything. He didn't try to impress, he simply expressed. And that authenticity was irresistible. Friendships deepened too. When a man learned how to build meaningful connections with other people, men, women, elders, children, his social intelligence grew. He wasn't just attractive to women, he was magnetic to people in general. Women noticed how he treated others, how he handled conflict, how he gave without expecting. Those glimpses revealed character, and character always shone through, especially in silence. Over time, rejections stopped stinging. Not because they never happened, but because they weren't seen as personal failures. A man with self-worth knew that not every woman would like him, and that was okay. He valued alignment over attention. He didn't take silence or disinterest as an attack. He took it as clarity, and in doing so, he freed himself from the need to please. Ironically, that freedom made him even more attractive. The most magnetic men were those who could create moments. Not grand gestures, but presence. Eye contact that wasn't invasive, but sincere. Touch that, wasn't creepy, but warm. Words that weren't memorized, but honest. A man who could slow down time, even briefly, and make someone feel like the only person in the world. He left a mark, and that mark lingered long after the conversation ended. Silence, too, had its place. A man who could sit in silence without awkwardness radiated peace. In a world of noise, his calm was like a balm. Women felt it. They felt more themselves around him, not because he tried to fix them or save them, but because he held space. And that kind of presence, rare and powerful, created bonds that words could not. The journey to becoming attractive wasn't a destination. It was a lifestyle. It required discipline, patience, and humility. It wasn't about chasing women. It was about becoming someone worth being around. And in that transformation, women were naturally drawn, not by force, but by resonance. Like music that plays in harmony, attraction became an unspoken connection of aligned energies. Each day added a new layer. More awareness, more presence, more depth. And slowly, the outer world mirrored the inner world. The kinds of women drawn in were no longer superficial or chaotic. They were grounded, intelligent, loving. Because, like attracted like, a man who had worked on his emotional wounds, who had forgiven his past, who had let go of bitterness, he created space for mature, authentic love. And so the journey continued. Not to conquer hearts, but to master one's own. And in doing so, the attraction of women became a natural byproduct of a deeper mission. To become the kind of man whose presence healed, inspired, and empowered. Not just in relationships, but in the world. That was the real secret. Not lines, tricks, or masks. Just truth. Just growth. Just presence. The kind of presence that made women pause, smile, and stay. Thanks for watching. Please share this video.